I'm Cray Beaumont Flynn. Welcome to Beyond the Design, a show that gives you a peek behind the curtain of the design industry and shares the stories of those that are the driving force behind it. Well, welcome to Beyond the Design today, and it's our pleasure to invite and have on our show Sallie Lord. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cray, for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Fantastic. Well, we're just going to jump into it and ask you to tell us about yourself, your journey, your interior design practice, and what makes you tick as a creative visionary.
Yes, I started GreyHunt Interiors in 2009. I'm the owner. I am based in the DC metro area and also recently in the Indianapolis area. So that's a little about the business. But I started in design, I would say, as a very young little one. My dad was a master builder from England. And I just loved everything he did. He showed me about architecture and homes. He taught me about furniture, different styles, look at the legs, look at the detail, look at the dovetailing. At 5 years old, I could tell you about dovetailing, how to understand the marks of quality furniture and how it was built.
Mhm.
That lasted with me. My aunts opened a home decor. It was a English store that had reproduction and antiques, and I absolutely loved working there. And I loved doing the displays and working with the customers and making them happy and
Mhm.
just finding the way to pull things together. And from there, I was like, I think I'm actually pretty good at this. And I really love doing it. It's like playing. And
Right.
so I ended up going to college, getting my degree. I remember going to design school and going, "What is this? This isn't what I thought it was gonna be. This is architecture." And I remember
This is a
being taken
business.
back and I was like, what is this? This isn't just putting pretty things together." There was no putting really pretty things together in college. It was,
Right.
really learning about foundations and tungsten hues and the weaves of materials art, furniture history and all of that. So it was a great foundation to have and to start building on. I worked at a home decor store for about 11 years and started interior design business there and decided I wanted to break out on my own, and I
So
did.
Indianapolis and DC, two separate, I would say, aesthetically diverse cities. Why those two cities?
It's a great story. Well, one, I grew up in the DC metro area, so I've lived there since I was 3 years old. And a little about 7.5 years ago, I met this man on a design project in Soho, and he's the senior industrial designer for Delta Faucets and Brizo, and I married him. And so we've been doing long distance for 7.5 years, and it was time to
Oh,
jump.
wow.
So I waited, wanted to wait until the kids were at a good place, and both I have the business is named after my sons, Grayson and Hunter.
Mm.
And so I waited till they were both freshman high school, freshman college, and we jumped this summer. And so now we're all together under one roof with
Well, you
mommy
just
flying back.
yeah. Well, you just explained the name of your company. I was going to ask you that. So that's a check. We understand that.
Yep.
How do they feel about a company being named after them?
Oh, they love it. The funny thing is actually Hunter is the eldest and Grayson is my youngest. And
Ah,
so it just Hunt Gray doesn't sound right. So
right.
Gray Hunt was born and Grayson, ever since he was a little guy, he was just like, well, it's more my business because my name's first. So he thinks he has more ownership than anyone since his name comes first. So he's very proud of it.
So what
They're
is your
good.
design process when you bring on a new project?
When we bring on a new project, I mean, just like once we sign with a client, we love to spoil them and send them a little something to let them know that they're in good hands. And We're steadily working on their project. We just start collecting all the inspiration, all the data, like just getting everything together, have a meeting, start talking about what the direction is, which way we're going to go. I am typically still sourcing the majority of the items, and then in leading the team in the right direction. And from there, I have amazing designers who are building it and then helping to manage that all the way through, like with the contractors, like we all work together. So I love how our company is a very hands on approach. Everybody's hands in the pot, and we all work really seamlessly together to make sure that these clients are taken care of in every aspect, that there's always someone to get back to them immediately. But we do that, and then we have our presentations, which we love to do. I mean, it's a lot of work to get those presentations
It
ready. It's
is.
a lot of stress, and it's fun when you're doing them, and it feels good when they're done, and you're like, "Whew," like because it's a lot of work and it's personal. Design is like our
Uh-huh.
children. We've just made this child, for these people, and so to us, it's really important that they love it and that they see themselves in their design in the design that we designed for them. That's super important to us.
Is there a Sallie Lord GreyHunt Interiors design aesthetic signature?
I would say the biggest thing, there's like a few things. One is I'm definitely known for livable luxury. I think that
Mhm.
people love how it looks like higher design, but it actually is very approachable. People don't feel like they can't touch it, they can't sit in it, they can't enjoy it. And that's what I want. What's the point of designing something that can't be enjoyed? Um, I'm known for my color pops. I love color pops. I love, just doing a surprise color like the emerald green. That's
Right.
probably one of my most well-known projects is my emerald gem project. And it's just blacks and whites and just a very, very strong pop of green. But I love that and just cohesive design. I mean, every designer should be designing cohesively, but I think that the way that I do it is a little different than how others, interpret it or do their version of it.
Mhm.
Still beautiful is just a little bit of a different way.
Now having, 2 offices in 2 distinct areas, do you see a variance and a distinct personality from those 2 cities? And so when you're going from DC to Indianapolis, do you have to really switch gears?
You know, not so in some ways yes, I do. I feel like it's a very interesting area. You have some that are really into design, a lot more into design in their homes than what I was thinking. I had perceived
Mhm.
notions, talk about be curious, not judgmental. Like I felt like this area would be all more traditional and there's texture ceilings everywhere, like everywhere. Like it was almost like their job to have textured ceilings everywhere. And so I was thinking I was walking more into that, but I went to the dream home and I was just blown away at how modern it was and gorgeous. I mean, it was just outstanding, just right on top of where things are going in the industry. And I was very impressed by what I was seeing. And so I'm seeing both. I see a lot of
Mhm.
traditional. I see some things that are like, oh, that's definitely different than the DC area. Um, but I feel like it's such an up and coming area. It's hot here. Like art is hot, design is
Really?
hot. Like, and I wasn't expecting that. I feel like with the DC area, you still have a mix. You have the traditional still there, just like there is here. Um, but I always call it like the Northern Virginia palette is, the DC blues, is that you are often having like those cooler, calmer color palettes because people are so stressed out in the DC area that they just need to calm down when they get home.
Right, right.
And so you're designing a certain aesthetic to just decompress. And so I feel like it's a little different here. I feel like people are that's not as much the issue and what you're
Right.
trying to accomplish for them to get them on a psychological level as much as the DC area.
Is there a particular project, that challenged you creatively that you what are some of the solutions that you had to overcome or project into the project?
Ooh. Um, I mean, there's always projects that, have that are challenging in some different levels. I
Mhm.
recently did one. It was actually in Austin, Texas, and it was a designer had come in and helped them, and I don't know what they were doing. Like, I was I was so lost, like, I couldn't make it make sense, like, and they spent,
Where do
I
I
mean,
begin?
really high-end pieces, and
Really?
I was like, we're staring at it as a team, and my designers are like, they didn't know, and I'm staring at it, I'm like, "Hey, I get it. I don't either. I'm gonna keep looking at it," and what ended up having to happen, like, I didn't wanna be wasteful of these gorgeous pieces that were done, but done in a very odd way, and, like, things didn't connect, and the house felt very disjointed, and so the client felt very stressed about it, that,
Mm,
the house wasn't coming together,
right.
so I basically, even though I was keeping some of the pieces, it certainly took me 3 times, 4 times longer than if I had spec'd everything myself and had my own original design. That was a challenging project, but it ended up turning out great. I really had to almost redesign it all in my head to be able to see it all come together and to cohesively connect throughout the whole main level to bring it together, and they love it. We did it. It was a challenge. We kind of were like, I don't know how we pulled that off, but somehow we did it. It was just like turning a Pollock into a Monet or something like that. It was just like like such different visions, such different way to approach it. So, it was interesting.
So you've been challenged. Do you feel that you take challenges and risk in your design?
I do.
Yeah.
I feel like there's, sometimes people don't wanna be pushed, and
Right.
I try to read that, and sometimes I have to say, "Listen, my job is to make you feel a little uncomfortable with some things because I don't wanna design for where you've been, I wanna design for where you're going. So I need you to trust me on this journey. Let me take you there. Like, let me take you to that next level
Mm,
that you may not feel like is comfortable. Change is hard. I get that. Trust me, you hired me because I can see something you can't see. So usually if I push hard enough, like they will come with me. So I usually don't get told no because I'm pretty fair, and it's just like sometimes I'm like, you've got to trust me to, that's why they hire you. They don't hire you to lie to them or just give
right.
you ordinary. They're hiring you to do something great with their space and to make them love it. They want to change that backdrop in their
Right.
life. I want to
I
help
think
them do that.
I think a lot of clients want to push back. They want to be told no, that their idea is not the way to go because they did hire a professional. So, you need the advice of the professional or the person that you hired. So is
Yes.
most of your projects residential?
Yes. I don't do much with commercial. If I do, it's more boutique style commercial.
Mm.
It's on a smaller scale and is typically clients that are my residential clients have commercial spaces and don't want to work with somebody else and want to bring me in. That's typically how it happens, but I try not to.
So what motivates you and inspires you as a creative?
Everything. I mean, it's like it's one of those things, like, it's everything because I take from all different aspects of life, like, it sometimes is nature, just being outside and you just see
Mhm.
the most gorgeous sunset and the fall leaves, and you're like, "Oh, I love that color palette, just the way that the sky turned this color with those leaves and that shadowing," and you're like, "Gosh, those would look so beautiful together." So sometimes it can be something as simple as that or, just going to market. I love going to market. It's, you're feeding off of other designers' energy,
Right.
and, their talents, and also just like what the industry is seeing, whether I love it or I don't, I mean, it's just like with art, if it evokes any kind of emotion, it's done its job, whether it's
Mhm.
good or bad, right? So whether you like it or you don't, I always say no's are just as, powerful as yeses.
Absolutely.
Um, so I love that. I definitely scroll the gram, so I'm always on Instagram, wasting a little too much time.
Hey, well, it's
But
knowledge. It's background knowledge, you
it
know?
is knowledge. I actually really love it, and it's such a great tool because it's a great way to keep connected with designers, and people that you follow, you admire their
Mhm.
work, and you're interested in what they're doing. It's a great way to show support, which I'm all about that. I'm very like that's a very important thing to me is support in the industry, and just collaboration, and really getting to know the designers that are out there. I'm definitely not a competition girl. I compete with myself. That is plenty for me. um I don't need to be competing with anyone else. I want, everyone to make it to the top. One of my lines is I say, if we can't all make it to the top, then we'll redesign it. Like,
There you go.
there's
Hey,
enough
I
for
like
all
that.
of us. So I'm
Right.
a pretty big cheerleader for other designers. So it's a great way to see everything and get your support in there for your design buddies, and just to stay in contact, especially with those that are in different parts of the country and everything like that. So.
Mhm. So what is your design process when you onboard a new client and a new project?
Well, like I was saying earlier, when we're onboarding the client, like we definitely get more in depth with asking them questions, getting to know what they like, what they don't like, what
Mhm.
they need, the functions, like do you have the pets? Do you have the kids? Do you need performance? How do you entertain in your home? Like, I find that that's really important. It's always interesting. It's like one way or the other. They're either past the stage of having all the kids and having to have all those huge gatherings,
Right.
like necessarily at the table, but then they're having huge parties because they're past that stage. So
Mhm.
I find that there's always like, okay, lots of seating, lots of makeshift seating, like stuff like that. So just finding out like what is going to work for them, what they need the house to be from, a psychological level, how they need to feel in their home. Do they want to feel invigorated? Do they want to feel calmed down? All of those sorts of things. Um, and then just starting to dig in. I mean, that's like my dream part is like when I love when I get to dig in and start designing and I kind of get into a zone. I have to get all those little to-dos off my list,
Right.
and then I can dig right into the design, and I usually love to do it at night, and I don't know why. I'm not a hoodie kind of wearing girl, but it's like I tend to put on like a sweatshirt or a hat, and it's like I have it over and I'm like this, and I just, like, get to work. So, it's kinda like my secret time, like, no one can see me designing
There
at
you
night,
go.
so
You're creating.
yeah, I'm like business by day, designer by night, so.
So talk about some of the highlights of some of the recent projects that you've done.
Oh, actually, this was a really fun one, and I know you had mentioned that you didn't go to market,
Mm.
but we actually got to design a showroom inside of Row, like a room inside
Oh,
of
really?
Row,
Uh-huh.
and I love that. I used to work at that store and I did all these displays for years, and I really enjoyed that. The design there was two other designers with us, French and Amy. She was lovely, but it was a great experience and I loved it, and that was fun. It was fun to just get to design a room however I wanted to. I was the client, but, you know, my husband didn't have to I didn't have to be like, "Hey, do you like this, like, pink psychedelic wallpaper?" Which
Right.
he actually did. And I get away with a lot more pink in our house than I probably should. Um, but yeah, I enjoy that. I'm, just working on, multiple projects right now and love seeing them wrap up. We took a former Redskins player's home, and we had new clients buy this home, and it was fun to transition this house from standard Redskins colors and very, very traditional into something much more modernized and updated. So, like, that was a fun project and just lovely clients. Like, I feel like we've been very blessed with a lot of great clients and a really broad wheelhouse of clients,
Hmm.
like all different styles and stuff, which I think kind of tickles my fancy to just get to do different styles and not just stay in one specific design lane
So,
because it's just so catered
right.
to who I'm working with and what they need.
Is there a particular project that you can think of that gave you complete carte blanche? They're like, Whatever you want to do, go for it."
Well, the one in Austin, I mean, I didn't have the complete because I was trying to work with a lot of what they had because they were great pieces and I was trying to be respectful, but they didn't question anything. There was
Hmm.
no revisions. They loved it and they were like, "Yes." And so I was like, "Oh, great. Like that's awesome." My Emerald Gem project, that was definitely one where and that's a few years old, but that was one where, we got inspired from a Valentino green purse, and that was our green, and we ran with it from there, and I got to do what I wanted. And she loves what I do, and in fact, she just sold that house this past summer, and I'm working on her new house, and I just get to design what I want. So it's
Yeah.
great. Her and I have very similar aesthetics, and we've been working together for almost 20 years. And so I get to do what I want, and that is super fun. I'm like, "Ooh, I nobody has let me play with this color palette, and I really want this one." And so I'm excited. I'm excited to photograph it.
During your professional tenure, have you seen yourself as a creative transition and change? Or have you pretty
Oh
much stayed
yeah.
true throughout? Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I definitely believe that our industry is fluid. I believe that you have to constantly keep learning and staying up with it's not really staying up with trends, but it's seeing what new products are out there and how to intertwine that with what
Mhm.
you've been doing with your staples.
Mhm.
Um the Emerald Gem projects, particularly, that was a really fun one for me. Oh, there it is on the screen right there. That was a fun one because she had bought that house many, many years ago and wanted it Tuscan, and I designed the entire house Tuscan. I mean, to the T. It was like cliche 1990 something. And then they'd moved out and rented it because they wanted their son to go or their kids to go to a different high school district. Came back to the house and she's like, "I want it completely different." There it is again, this different room. And I was like, "Okay." And I was just like, "Let's do it. We're gonna make
Right.
it like you've never seen it before." So that house that went completely more modern, pops of color, pop of the emerald green was originally Tuscan. So it was a great bookend project to kind of see where I was and where I was going and everything. So
Mhm.
I enjoyed that. I mean, I enjoyed doing the Tuscan one years ago, and it's like now watching all of this stuff coming back in, like this grandma chic and all of this. I was like, been there, done that, did it 5 billion
Right.
times. Here we go again, but um, that was a really fun one to see my own here's a before, here's an after, here's a before, here's an after of the same home. That was pretty
Mhm.
interesting.
Are there any particular design trends now that you can think are very, interesting or exciting? Since you just went to market and you saw a lot of stuff at High Point.
I did. Okay, so have you ever seen something where you're like, "Okay, do I like it again? How am
Right.
I feeling about this?" Like, Am I sure? I feel like it's something like I was seeing quite a bit of, and then I was like, I was excited, but then I'm like, ooh, but there's just so much 80s. And there's a lot in the 80s that I'm kind of like, "Ooh, gosh, why are we gonna repeat that?" Especially
Right.
fashion, like, no business. But there were some things like the black glass, the black smoke glass, things like that, the compressed glass, with the brasses, I was loving just some of the shapes. I thought it was really interesting, the interpretation and how they've transitioned it to something much cleaner feeling.
Mhm.
And then there was a few things that I saw that I was like, "Oh, no, we had that in our house, and I'm good. I don't
It's
need
it
that."
it served its purpose in life.
Yeah, but it was fun. I mean, I felt like there was a lot of really, interesting trends down there. I mean, you're definitely going off-white. You've got the more cream, which we were seeing a while ago. There was a lot more monochromatic down there than I thought. And then iColts has the new Met line, which I thought that was really interesting. I don't know if you happen to have seen that or heard that,
Mm-mm.
but they did a line with the Met where they pulled pieces from the museum, and it's just like a recreation, like furniture pieces,
Hmm.
art, sculptures, lighting, and I thought that was pretty fascinating because, I love going to museums. I love the Met. I love seeing those lines, but it was interesting to see it in such a modernized showroom, like seeing those very ornate details and different time periods and things like that. So, I mean, it's exciting. I love seeing modern and antiques put together. So I'm all about that.
What else, is next for you that you wanna do that you have not achieved yet? Or wanna a certain particular project you wanna do that you haven't had the opportunity to do yet?
I think that I would like to do, can I just say, like a huge, massive modern home from the ground up
Yeah.
and do everything. I mean, I've done it on, and I say a smaller scale. I mean, 10, 13,000, square feet is not a small home by any
No.
stretch of the imagination. That is a big home, but I think I would like to do something even more next level. Um, I just think that that would be so fun. I think you're in it for a long time. You really get to know the homeowners. I love having that kind of relationship. I love working with the trades, the builders, the
Mhm.
architect. I love that process also. I feel like it's such a unifying experience, providing you've got the right team members. Like not everybody loves working with designers. But usually the clients that we get, I say from the beginning, hey, we're really big team players and we can serve you best together. And so they typically are hiring, for that kind of
True.
mentality or
Yeah.
mindset. So that I would also, I would love to do more with helping to encourage designers in the industry, and I'm really big into supporting like women in business and men, anyone really. I just think it's really important to do that because you get to it was hard for me at times. Like it was not easy. It was a lot of teaching myself. And if
Mhm.
I can make someone else's journey not so hard, why not give that back? So I stay tuned on that. There'll
Okay.
be there'll be more to do with that because that's something that is really important to me to give
Would
back
that
on that.
would that be like a mentorship program you wanna kinda install or participate in?
Something like that. Like I like
Mhm.
going down to like market, and I've done a couple panels, like panel talks. I would love to do more of that, but just something more consistently, I think would
Mhm.
be great to do. Um like I said, it doesn't have to be as hard. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I didn't have anyone to follow, and I was explaining to one of my designers. I said, when I started doing this, I said, I'm really going to age myself in a second. And I said, but when I started doing this, I said, I mean, there was internet, but like we didn't use it. And
Right.
I was just like, and I said, and like I remember when we went to market and got the thickest catalogs. I don't even know how I have a shoulder anymore from carrying all those catalogs, and, like, they give you a CD, and you're like, "I don't
Yeah.
want that. I need to have it in the catalog," you
Yeah.
know? And so, times have just changed so much, like, in our industry, and I had to figure things out for myself because I started the design studio at my previous job. And so I wanna help people. I mean, they have a lot of tools and resources at their fingertips, but you can't get that real life experience. And I think the learning is so fluid, like I was saying, in our industry from every single project. Like I have a group of designer girlfriends and we talk and we're, like this one's having may have an issue with this or hey, this was great because of this. And it's great to share those things and say, "Ooh, I maybe need to put that in my contract. Hasn't happened to me, but it happened to you, so it might
Right.
happen to me. So let me just protect myself a little bit." So, it's nice to help others save
So
them.
being in the business as long as you have, what were you surprised about and didn't expect that you didn't learn, what that you wish you knew?
Oh, when I was younger?
Uh-huh.
Oh, so much. So
Yeah, 'cause
much.
they don't teach you everything in school.
No, I think that was the biggest thing is they really don't teach. They teach you a lot in school, but it's not what you think it's gonna be.
Right.
And, that's one thing is I've had a lot of people start school and then leave school because it's not what they thought it was gonna be. And I tell them, I say, I know it's not what you think that you're going to need, but you will need to fall back on that foundation of
Absolutely.
education. And I said, there really is valuable information. It's not the pretty though. This is
Mhm.
this is the math equations of how we get there. This is the
Right.
algebra and geometry of the design. And it's so interesting. I was talking to someone the other day and we were talking about the fact that, when you put a room together, like it could look simplistic, right? Like a great design can look simplistic. That's like a Frank Lloyd Wright thing, right?
Mhm.
Like simplicity, is so important and key. But what they don't understand is that they're like, oh, I could do that. I'm like, but could you?
Yeah.
Because we're taking into consideration what is your walkway path? What is the height of that, the back of that chair, that sofa? Can you see out the window properly? Is that going to block this? Is that going to block the TV? Is that performance fabric? Is that not good for their pets? Is this duh, 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 duh? And we're thinking and calculating all of those things, and we're trying to give them this experience and make it durable and make it this, that, and the other. And it's like they don't understand what all actually goes into creating a design. And it takes not just the talent of the aesthetic, it takes a lot of times that understanding and information of pulling in all that information, the
Mhm.
foundation education of the mathematics and, with the textiles and this is this and, so on and so forth. So it's important to have as much as you can, as much education from the formality to just the talent and the practice of it.
Yep, very, very
I wish I
true.
had someone to guide me, that's what I wish I had. So I didn't have to, like, make all my own forms and contracts on my
Or they
own.
can or they give you keynotes when you start, just a kind of guide.
Yes, that would be amazing, that's what I'll call it. I'll call it, like, the Yo Crib notes
There
or
you
something.
go. Given that you do work in, Washington, DC, I'm assuming there's a lot of historical, components or projects that you do. Is there a historical influence that you've had to, uh, keep those elements but change them so they're more in a contemporary fashion that fits within the design program?
Yes, house we did last year, it was a historic home and a stone home. It was absolutely gorgeous. And we worked with a company, and they're fantastic builders. Their name is Veritas, and they work with more like historic homes in Middleburg, Leesburg. Like this is like old Virginia,
Right, right.
and it was great. We wanted to stay in keeping with the house, and we opened up the whole back of the house and put an addition on. But it's like you want to make sure that it looks period,
Mhm.
from the outside so that it doesn't look like an addition. But on the inside, it's like we still play with those traditional elements, like such as with a fireplace. Like although it was more modernized, we made sure that it could be something that if you went back in time, it's a similar style, that it still is in keeping with the home. Like that's a really important part of designing out there. There's another home that I helped them from when they were building the home, Middleburg Manor, and that house is a brand new build, but they did a really beautiful job. Um, we were connecting, making it look like one manor house that had an addition and an addition and an addition, like how it was, as your
Right.
family grew back in the 1800s, you would add on more and add on more and add on
Mhm.
this. And so you look at the home and you think it's old, but it's not. So it's modernized in the details, but the house itself, um, it's very beautifully and seamlessly done in like a transitional traditional manner. But from the facade, you cannot tell that this is, you know, not an old home.
I love homes
So
like that.
it's wonderful to work with that kind of charm and character.
Is there a particular project you can think of that you've done that is like, "I want more of these?"
Oh yeah. I mean, I think I really love gosh, you're gonna be surprised, but I love the old homes and I love the really moderns. I more if I could not be I don't love the cookie cutters, I
Right,
mean,
right.
who
Yeah.
does in our industry?
Yeah.
I want the character. So I either want it to be so clean and fresh and bring something so unique to that space, or I want to play with the old and manipulate it, but not
Right.
take advantage of it. You know what I mean? Like I want to
Mhm.
get it just enough that it it speaks something different to you, but that it doesn't feel alien in there, that it feels like it still belongs, that it's a layered history.
Mhm. I mean, you working now in Indianapolis and DC, do you have projects nationally in various places? Will
Yes,
Sally go anywhere?
yes. I mean, I always have, like, even one of my first jobs when I first started was a B&B in Vermont at Lake Champlain. I mean, that
Mm,
was
beautiful.
amazing.
Yeah.
It was so gorgeous there. But yeah, I've done a lot of secondary homes, so that's fun. Or when clients move, they a lot of times they take me with them, they still want my design and, I'm familiar with what they have and what's going to
Mhm.
work and what isn't going to work and how to transition to give them a new look. But like a lot like in, Florida, Boston, Florida, New Jersey, North Carolina, South Carolina, all of those kinds of places. Some in California, Texas. Our biggest project right now is my own home here.
That was something I was gonna ask. Does, Sally have her own personal design aesthetic?
Yes, it gets me in trouble.
Do you switch out rooms, seasonally? Keep your family
Well,
guessing?
I've got a new toy. I've got this house here in Indy, and my husband and I have been working on it for a while. And it is really nice to have your husband, who is also a designer. He's an industrial designer, but he's in the industry. He's dealing with interior designers all the time. And so
Mhm.
he loves when I have ideas, but he also gets scared because I'm like, I have an idea. And he's like, "Ugh, what
No.
is it?" Like I want to hear it, but I'm also very scared. So right now we actually just finished our bathroom a couple months ago, and that was an undertaking, and
Mhm.
I love it. It's really beautiful. But we're about to do the kitchen and the laundry room, and I'm super excited what we're doing in there. The laundry room, I said I want to do like a retro diner look in our
Wow.
laundry room, and we're doing pink lacquered cabinets.
Wow.
I know, I can't believe I got away with it.
I like that. That
He's a good
gives
sport.
me
Good man.
Is there one particular component in design that if someone came over to you and says, "What's one of the key factors, if you had to choose one, that's an important to install within your project or your home?" Like lighting or color or paint or, this or that, or artwork?
Oof. All of it? Okay, I can't say all of it. I would say lighting, because I think that lighting elevates the space the most. Like,
Mm,
I definitely love playing with high-low and the juxtaposition of things, but I feel like there's no scooting around that one. Like, you
mhm.
can't like, if you have sad lighting, the whole thing looks sad.
Yeah.
You can't light up a design with a crappy light. So you really that is something that, you really need to elevate your space. Like, you just have to have it. And besides the fact that you see it, like, it's so
Right.
obviously seen and noticed, um, it can just really make or break a space. I mean, if you think about walking into a shell of an empty home and they have just ridiculously gorgeous lighting, you would fall in love with that home even if there was mold in the basement. And then if you walk through the home and it had like builder lighting, you'd be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, I'll change all that." So I would have to say, if you're gonna force me to pick, I'm gonna go with lighting.
Is there a particular, let's say, material or element that's your go-to that you like installing into a project besides the pop of color that you mentioned?
Um, I'm just thinking. Well, I can tell you one of my fabric reps, if he listens to this, and he probably will, he'll be like, "I know." I actually do a lot with, and I know it kind of sounds boring, but it allows me to play with the color I want to, just a really beautiful white fabric, and I use it quite a bit, and to me it allows it to be the canvas for everything to pop. It allows me to have that play that I want.
Mhm.
Um, it's not obviously every project, but it is something that I think is more, that may be my personal aesthetic coming through, is to me that feels very fresh, and I love that high contrast.
Right.
I love the juxtaposition. I love high contrast. I love those pops of colors, and that allows me to do it because it's like, if everything's special, nothing is special. So I need to have that to bounce off of.
You have quite an amazing
Not in every project, but
not in
if you're
every
saying
project.
the most.
Yeah. You have a quite amazing portfolio that's looping behind you. Have you ever thought about doing your own publication of projects or your own book?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it's definitely on my bucket list. It's funny,
Yeah.
I wrote a bucket list like 10 or 12 years ago, and I accomplished everything. And I was
Really?
like,
Well,
"Oh my
congrats. Yeah.
gosh, I'm gonna have to make a new one." So I did, and that is on my bucket list of life, that I will have my own publication one day.
Fantastic.
So
Anything else?
I would love to. I think it would just be such a fun experience, and also a great way to give back to clients. Um, just for them to see their projects
Mhm.
in that publication, and it's always exciting when clients get
Yeah,
published. I'm
absolutely.
always happy for them and send it to them and everything.
Yeah.
So it's fun for them and exciting. So I would love for them to have that as well.
Is there any other sector of the industry you want to try your hand in, like carpet design or wallpaper or rugs
Oh,
or anything like that?
I know. I feel like don't get me started. Yes. So if anyone's listening, I would really, really like to do a little bit of product design. I would be very interested in that. I would love to do something with like a wallpaper or fabric, but anything. I love, my. I was really blessed. My very first project that I had out of school. I say blessed and scared to death. My very first project was a bachelor who had recently gotten divorced and had a colonial home in Warrenton, Virginia. And he gave this huge budget. He gave a budget for art, and then he gave a
Wow.
budget for the house. And I was like nobody does that, and this is my first job. I'm just about to finish design school. That's how young I was. I was a baby, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna spend this budget and this money. It wasn't hard at all. I did it pretty fast and efficiently. But I got to design a piece of furniture, and I designed a hospitality couch that came apart into it was 3 pieces, and it had, like, the center column, and we had, like, this whole inlaid, tray on top, and then it was the 2 pieces that came together
Mhm.
so that it could be the sofa and everything with these inlaid bun feet. I picked the stain, I did the design on the wood, I picked the hide that went I mean, I designed everything about this thing, and I was, like, you know, 21, 22. And I was like, "That was pretty awesome." So I really love that. I thought that that was really fun. I love drawing furniture in school. I loved art history, so I would love to do something like that. I think it would be great
There you go.
to have that
Is
opportunity.
it on your bucket list?
I may or not be thinking of a pattern and have one already ready.
Is it on your
Just
bucket
gotta find the
list?
place. It is on my bucket list, and in fact, I've had it I'm making it into a custom rug, but it's just for me through Jaipur, but we'll see, you never know. I told him, I said, "It's gonna look really good, everybody will like it."
There you go.
So we'll see.
What advice would you get if someone just interested or getting into this industry?
Be open to listening and learning constantly, and don't ever think you've outgrown that. Um, there's no ceiling on the learning.
Mhm.
There's constant movement. There's always something to learn. And when you feel like you've learned something, give it back and give it to someone else who's right behind you. And just help them get there a little bit faster if you can. I would say that would be something I would say. And listen to your clients. I think that that's something that I feel is sad. Like sometimes I go to clients who have worked with other people and they
Mhm.
just don't feel like they were heard and they were listened to. And I think that that is absolutely the number one thing that is our responsibility to do. It's like going to a doctor and the doctor saying, "Let me guess.
Right, right.
This is what's wrong with you just by looking at your face." Like that's and not listening to any symptoms. Like you've got to be willing to listen to your client and remember this isn't just to this isn't a portfolio builder. This is their home and their life, and they're the
Mhm.
ones who live there when you're done designing it. And, if you're lucky enough, and you should do it, that you can do function and design together, that you make portfolio pieces, but you need to listen to your clients and really understand and hear what they're saying. Sometimes you have to read between the lines and be a little bit of a therapist to figure
True,
out
very
what it
true.
is, but I've called it out on projects. I've gone into homes and they're saying one thing to me and I can see the stress on their face and
Mm.
I'm like, "You're stressed out, you're overwhelmed, you have a lot of anxiety about your house." And I've literally had clients just start crying and they're like, "I don't know how you knew that." I'm like, "'Cause it's like right here.
Right.
Like you may not say it, but I can see it. Like your house matters. I understand that. I'm here to help." So
Good
that they designers need to know that. They need to have honed that skill as well.
good words of wisdom. Has there ever been a time where you've gotten a really quirky request from a client? You're like, I just can't. I don't see it. It's not going to work.
I've definitely had requests where they want to work with something that I'm like, yeah, it's just not going to work.
Mm.
Not that it's so quirky, but just that they're trying to hold on to something they need to let go of. I have had a client show me their inspiration once, and let's just say maybe they shouldn't have brought me to their Pinterest page.
Okay.
So there was some different kind of inspiration on there that I wasn't expecting to try to incorporate into the design. So
All right. Saw things you didn't want to see, I am assuming. Is there an unforgettable transformation besides the one in Austin that you mentioned previously?
An unforgettable transformation. Oh my gosh. Shoot, I feel like my home's an unforgettable transformation. I honestly, I have so many. Like I feel like this room behind me, if you can
I
see
can
that
see that.
there, that was on a farm. That was on a farm, and this is where they gutted deer and parked tractors.
Really?
Yeah.
You wouldn't think of it
This
from
is
that.
in Boca. You should have seen this beauty. This was 1989 beforehand. So I feel like that's what I do and I bring to the table is really transforming. This is a home in Warrington, Virginia that was so dated, and the owner was an older person and they hadn't done anything since the 80s. And the house, we ripped it down to the studs. So they all have stories.
Right.
Like I feel like they all have stories, and I want them to know and to see that I was there. So
There you go. Well, Sallie, is there anything else you want to add and share with us?
I could talk all day, but
You
I
got to
gotta
get.
go design.
You
I
got
gotta
to go
go
to work.
find a hoodie and start designing. Yeah.
There you go. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on our show. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us, and I hope you enjoyed yourself as well.
I did. Thank you so much. I really did enjoy myself. It was a treat.
Oh, good, good. Well, it's been a pleasure, and I'll chat with you soon.
All right. Take care.